everybody, and welcome to the weekly Scopes from the 27th of October to the 2nd of November. Hi everybody, and welcome to this week's weekly Scopes. If you've heard this before, you can skip, but this is just the intro on how I, formulate these astrology weekly readings. I use astrology and my intuition to give you advice how you can practically use the knowledge of the stars and the planets and apply them to your life. So my weekly Scopes are all based on GMT time and on Vedic constellational astrology. So now I'm just going to explain what Vedic constellation astrology is and how it differs from Western astrology. So the precession of the equinox is sort of like something that happens in astronomy and astrology, where the Earth's axis undergoes a slow circular motion over 26,000 years, and basically this means that this motion causes a shift in the position of the equinoxes, and also the calculation Vedic and Western astrologies use. So around 2,000 years ago, the tropical and sidereal Vedic astrology signs of astrology were aligned in the same position. So if the sun was in Scorpio in Vedic astrology, it was also in the constellation of Scorpio in Western astrology. But because of the precession of the equinoxes, this has caused a gradual westward sort of like drift of the tropical Western signs. So basically these signs and the Western signs shift 1 degree with every 72 years. So as a result of this ongoing shift, when Western astrology says the sun is in the constellation of Pisces, it's typically in the constellation of Aquarius. Still, this is because the degree, orb and the date for Western and Vedic astrology are 24 degrees, 24 days apart. So in Western astrology, the sun enters the constellation of Pisces around the 19th of February each year, but actually the sun doesn't arrive into the constellation of Pisces until the 13th to the 15th of March each year, and Vedic astrology takes this into account because it's based on the fixed star positions, and Vedic astrologers use sidereal calculations. So as a result, Vedic astrology takes into account the actual positions of the constellations in the sky at any given time, and also considers the precession of the equinox, adjusting for the shift in the position of the equinoxes over time. But in terms of Western astrology follows the tropical zodiac, which is based on the seasons rather than fixed star positions. Western astrologers also do not directly account for the precession of the equinox in their calculations as well, so this results in slightly different calculations and interpretations that are given whether we're using Western astrology or Vedic astrology. So yeah, as I said, Western astrology uses specific dates, so every year, regardless of where the sun actually is at the sky, the sun moves into Pisces around the 19th of February. So yeah, this discrepancy, this misalignment between the tropical zodiac and the actual positions of the constellations has led to a discrepancy between Vedic astrology and Western astrology. So I consider the actual where the sun and the moon are and where Mars and Venus are at any given time, and this is how I formulate these sort of like weekly scopes. So yeah, thanks for listening to this, and let's dive into this week's weekly scope. Okay, so now I'm just going to explain what parallels and contra-parallels are in astrology, because I use them in my chart interpretation. So declination in astrology is the measure of how far a celestial body is, such as the sun, whether it's either north or south of the celestial equator. And the celestial equator is an imaginary line in the sky above the Earth's equator, which us astrologers use in our interpretation. So parallels happen when two planets are on the same declination. Either both planets are on the north side side, or either both planets are on the south side, and this alignment increases the influence of the involved planets. So it's similar to a conjunction aspect, as it amplifies their energy, making the effects of the planets more pronounced. Contra-parallels, on the other hand, happen when two planets are on the same declination, but one is in the north and one is in the south. So this alignment creates tension, which is similar to an opposition aspect, and it can lead to conflict, challenges and inner struggles between the energies of the planets involved. So contra-parallels highlight areas of friction or contrast in our lives, urging us to find balance between their opposing forces at play. When transiting parallels and contra-parallels happen, they can sort of like trigger significant events, shifting consciousness and periods of intense growth and transformation. So I look at these aspects closely during chart analysis to understand how planetary energies interact and influence each other during a specific time frame, to pinpoint key periods for personal development, relationship dynamics or career shifts, and other shifts like karmic shifts and stuff like that. Because I just find using contra-parallels and parallels gives me more depth in interpretation, so I use them. So contra-parallels and parallels in astrology serve as markers for potential challenges or breakthroughs, guiding us towards more self-awareness, love, acceptance, understanding, forgiveness for ourselves and others, and shifts in consciousness and growth. So overall, just a shift in our mindset if we allow for it. So parallels and contra-parallels just kind of like provide valuable insights into the complexities and nuances of the astrological interactions between planetary movements. So yeah, that's the end of what contra-parallels and parallels are. Okay, so this week we've got two aspects flavouring the week. So first we've got Mercury making a contra-parallel to Mars, and this entered on the 28th of October, is exact on the 1st of November and leaves us on the 6th of November. Jupiter also makes a sextile to Chiron, and Jupiter's in Taurus and Chiron is in Pisces, and this is exact at 8:07 a.m. on the 2nd of November and leaves us on the 18th of November, so affecting us for the next 2 weeks or so. Okay, so Mercury's contra-parallel to Mars is the same as an opposition. Positively, this week it allows us to be more mentally sharp, focus on the ball, quick-witted, logical, even irrational, because it is an opposition after all. But it allows us to work on our communication skills and assertiveness. We may find ourselves being more decisive and able to express our thoughts with more clarity and confidence. So it's a good time for the base intellectual research and taking action on your ideas, because we're more confident. But negatively, it can make us impatient. We can have an increase in conflict and arguments with others. We can just get more angry at each other. There can be a tendency towards being overly critical and aggressive in communication, and we may come across aggressive or confrontational in our connections with others, and this can get in the way of important meetings, work deals, negotiations, whatever, relationship discussions. So be mindful of your words and tone during this time, because it can all be down to tone, to avoid conflicts and misunderstandings. Walk away and count to 10 if you've got nothing nice to say, is my advice. And it can also make us more scattered in our energy and difficult to focus on tasks for a prolonged period. And the best use of this energy is to channel it into productive activities such as problem solving, planning, or engaging in stimulating conversations. It could be a great time to start new projects that require quick thinking and assertiveness. And Jupiter sextile Chiron brings a lot of harmony to our lives this week. It helps us with relationship healing and repair, which is good because Mercury's contra-parallel to Mars can wreck our relationships. So this chills us out a bit. It supports our healing, growth and spiritual development, encourages us and supports us to explore our inner wounds and embrace vulnerability and seek emotional healing and be more optimistic, and just seek wisdom, wisdom from people who've got it, or seek your own inner wisdom to help you resist being argumentative. And it just supports us in asserting our own boundaries and respecting other people's as well. It allows us to tap into deep emotional insights, release past traumas and find resolutions to long-standing issues. And it just allows us to be more empathetic, compassionate, and have more of a sense of interconnectedness with others. But negatively, it can also bring up buried emotions, and this can cause discomfort and make us feel uneasy. And it can be challenging to confront unresolved pain or face difficult truths about ourselves. So it's best to navigate this energy with openness and self-awareness, and this can lead to profound personal growth and emotional breakthroughs. And the best use of this energy is to approach it with mindfulness and introspection, using the harmonious aspect of this energy to dig deep into your emotional, psychological and spiritual landscape, and confront any lingering wounds and start a journey of self-discovering, or continue your journey of healing, and embrace vulnerability as a strength and allow yourself to release past traumas with compassion and understanding, and engage in practices that promote emotional well-being, such as therapy, meditation or creative expression. And create empathy and connection with others, and seek support when needed, and offer a listening ear in return, to support people in their problems, and welcome, the fact that other people want to support and, listen to you at this time as well. Okay, so now I'm going to delve into the spiritual and psychological meanings. So when Mercury contra-parallel Mars, we experience a clash between our thoughts, represented by Mercury, and assertive actions, represented by Mars, due to internal conflict, and this is pushing us to balance communication and aggression. As I said, we have to be mindful of our words and actions and reflect on how they impact others, and look at ways how you can, express yourself more compassionately while still remaining confident and assertive. On the spiritual and psychological levels, we can find it challenging to find harmony between our words and actions, and this can bring arguments in our relationship. So for example, in a heated argument with a friend, you need to choose your words carefully to express yourself without causing harm. It's also good energy to self-reflect and develop more self-awareness, acceptance, love, forgiveness of yourself and others, and think about how you communicate your desires and opinions. As I said, Jupiter's sextile to Chiron allows us to have more healing and growth. It brings a sense of optimism, represented by Jupiter, combined with deep emotional healing, represented by Chiron. And we can find ourselves more open to exploring our wounds and finding ways to heal them. So because Jupiter's in Taurus, it brings a lot of stabilizing energy, abundance energy and grounding energy, but it can make us stubborn and resistant to change as well. So yeah, it ultimately gives a special window for healing and developmental changes if we're open to it. And this conjunction blends hopefulness from Jupiter with profound emotional restoration, refilling us, which is brought by Chiron, and it beckons us, calls for us to dig deeper into our past hurts with newfound optimism and seek avenues for healing. Overall, this aspect highlights themes of security and prosperity, abundance, and rootedness in ourselves and sense of self and inner values. It encourages us to anchor ourselves in stability and embrace the abundance that's within you and that surrounds you. And it just offers us a nurturing environment to grow and evolve through self-care practices and self-reflection. Content creators can use the energy of Mercury Contra-Parallel Mars and Jupiter sextile Chiron to explore astrology and spirituality, and the deeper meaning of these and how they can help us heal our emotional and psychological and spiritual trauma. It can also allow us to focus on communication styles, so talking about how we can improve our communication strategies, how we can become more assertive, encouraging your listeners to reflect on how they express themselves and handle conflicts, giving techniques to do so. And also you can discuss how to channel Mars's energy positively, how to use our motivation and assertive drives in a balanced way, which allows other people to sign as well. Also talking about how we can be open to lifelong healing and growth, and talking about how we can become more expansive about believing in the good in life, because a lot of the time we get to a certain age and we give up on love, and this is because a lot of the time we think lust and obsession and jealousy is love, and it's not that. So talking about what true love is, what authentic love is, what authentic self-love is, how we can bring more stability, material wealth, spiritual abundance into our life, and how we can have a sense of gratitude for what we have in our lives right now, how we can attract more blessings into our life by working on ourselves and taking practical action to change our lives as well, and talking about the importance of psychological and spiritual and emotional healing and release, and how it's good to work with our emotions rather than numb ourselves from them, and talking about how we can become more vulnerable, the pros and cons of being vulnerable. We can't be vulnerable with all people because they can take advantage. So talking about forgiveness, giving tips and strategies on how we can forgive ourselves and others more, and how we can build more compassion towards ourselves and others as well. So ultimately, reflecting and creating content about communication, assertiveness, healing, growth, abundance, stability, material wealth, values, reassessment, gratitude and spiritual healing and emotional release, vulnerability, forgiveness and compassion is a good use of this energy. So now I'm just going to talk about the day-to-day aspects and what's happening. So on the 27th of October, summer is officially over in the UK, not like it ain't already. But yeah, so daylight saving time ends at 2, so we are going to be having dark nights from like 4 p.m. And Mercury makes a quincunx to Chiron, Mercury makes a quincunx to Jupiter, and Mercury makes a sesquiquadrate to the moon's north node. So a lot of Mercury action today. So Mercury's quincunx to Chiron happen, and they all happen when Mercury's in Libra. Chiron's in Pisces for the quincunx, and that's exact at 6:23 today, and leaves us in 3 days. Mercury's quincunx to Jupiter, and Jupiter's in Taurus. This is exact at 8:50, and that leaves us in a few days as well. And Mercury's sesquiquadrate to the moon's north node happens when the moon's north node is in Pisces, and is exact at 7:46 p.m. today. Okay, so when daylight saving time ends, as I said, it's the end of daylight saving, and in the UK it means it's going to be a lot darker, and I guess it's the same for everyone else who has daylight saving time. So daylight saving ending marks the conclusion of an annual period where the clocks are set forward by 1 hour to maximise daylight during evenings. So the positives of daylight saving time is that it helps us conserve more energy and increase productivity by aligning waking hours with natural light. You get an extra hour of sleep, which is always good, right? And we can improve our mood and alertness if we get the more sleep, which, you know, not always. We can use it as an excuse to stay up longer, but yeah. But negatively, daylight saving time can disrupt sleep patterns and lead to feelings of fatigue and disorientation as our bodies adjust to the new schedule. Also, we can get seasonal affective disorder because there's not enough daylight. So, take vitamin D and do whatever you need to do in healthy ways to get that sun in you. So yeah, astrologically it represents a time to go inward, to become more at peace with yourself and your surroundings. Mercury Quincunx to Chiron allows us to communicate and heal this week, supports us in having more honest and empathetic conversations. It pushes us to seek, different healing techniques than the ones that we've been using, and just, work through our past pain and traumas effectively, starting or continuing the work to do that. So yeah, it wants us to work through our pain and traumas by finding new techniques, and if we do this we can have emotional growth because we self-reflect on our wounds and we think about the right tools. We can increase our empathy towards ourselves and others as we research the right ways to nurture ourselves and to, get ourselves better. It also can bring negatively challenges in the way we communicate, and this can lead to misunderstandings and emotional sensitivity. It can be kind of like we're treading on eggshells with this aspect, but the best way to use this is to approach communication with yourself and others with compassion, be honest and open, and allow for emotional, spiritual and psychological healing and understanding to take place. Staying open of the potential challenges and being patient with yourself and others. Also today, Jupiter makes a quincunx with Jupiter, and again this helps us with communication, intellectual growth and being optimistic about growth in our relationships. But again, because we can be overconfident, misunderstandings can happen because of different opinions and the fact that we may exaggerate with this aspect. To make the most of this energy, again, it just wants us to be open and learn and try and understand other people's perspectives. Mercury Sesquiquadrate with the moon's north node allows us to be intuitive, allows for spiritual growth and karmic understanding, also supports emotional healing, but we can be moody and passive aggressive and just feel a bit emotionally overwhelmed with this energy. So the best use of this energy is to meditate, do some journaling and just be open to healing and the processes of life in this week, and trying to resolve conflict within yourself and within your relationships as well. On the 28th of October, Venus makes a sesquiquadrate to Mars, the Moon enters its balsamic moon phase, Mars makes a trine to Neptune, the Moon enters void of course, Venus makes a square to Saturn, the Sun makes a sesquiquadrate to Jupiter, and the Moon enters Virgo as well. So Venus's sesquiquadrate to Mars happens when Venus is in Scorpio, Mars is in Cancer, and it's exact at 2:09 a.m. Mars' trine to Neptune is exact at 12:30 p.m. and Venus's square to Saturn is exact at 1:34 p.m. and the Sun's sesquiquadrate to Jupiter happens when the Sun's in Libra and Jupiter's in Taurus, and is exact at 3:46 p.m. today. So the Moon's balsamic phase allows us to think about what we need to let go of. It's a time of contemplation, introspection, and thinking about or starting or actually letting go of what no longer serves you, making room for new beginnings, but negatively adds to the restlessness, the increased emotional sensitivity, the moodiness, so we just need to watch out for that. When the Moon enters Virgo, we can experience more of a focus on detail, organisation and practicality. It's perfect for tackling tasks that require precision and analytical thinking. Positive of this energy is that it increases a sense of responsibility and can make us more productive as well. It can help help us improve our daily routines, especially our daily sort of grooming routines, health and hygiene, and exercise and work routine as well. But negatively, we can be critical of ourselves and others, and we can just be too perfectionistic right now, nitpicking, and this can just disturb balance in relationships. And we know we've got quite a few aspects that are already doing that, so it's important to be gentle with ourselves and others, practice self-care and, you know, empathy with others as well, to avoid becoming overly stressed or anxious. And Venus's Sesquiquadrate to Mars adds to this tension in relationships and brings power struggles, and we can find it harder to find common ground. But positively, because we can be more passionate and it gives intensity or adds to the intensity in our relationships, it pushes us to address underlying issues and create deeper connections by being honest and assertive and standing up for what you believe in, but also, you know, allowing others to do so. It's good for all forms of personal development and assertive communication while respecting other people's boundaries. And I've said that a lot because that's the key phase of this week, you know, respect of yourself and others. Now again, the best use of this energy is to acknowledge and address any issues that come up with openness, and use the passion and intensity to dig deeper into your relationships and understand other people's perspectives, which is key, and work towards finding balance. Practice patience and effective communication and active listening, rather than just listening to respond. Listen to what the actual message is, and it can be an excellent growth opportunity if you're willing to compromise. With Mars trying to Neptune, and with all Neptune energy, it can lead to us, you know, escaping from our trauma, from our responsibilities, from the relationship healing, and confronting, you know, arguments and underlying tension, which the other aspects wants us to do today. But positively, it can help us with being creative, intuitive, and, you know, using spirituality and higher consciousness and higher logic to, you know, understand other people. Also, it adds to the empathy and compassion, and it helps us to engage in selfless service. But negatively, because we can become idealistic and people can manipulate, or we can be jealous and succumb to illusions, it's important to do grounding practices to stay connected to reality, grounding, meditation, breath work, all of that, and seek out help if you need be, and just try and be honest with yourself and others, and don't ignore red flags. With Venus is square to Saturn, Saturn gives us practicality and being able to see through the bullcrap of lies, so this is good, but it also brings a clash between love and responsibility, between our desires for intimacy and the need for structure and boundaries in relationship. So it can bring up feelings of restriction and loneliness, yeah, but it pushes us to assess the long-term viability of our connections and make changes if need be. So it supports us in letting go, being honest, having those deep, raw conversations. And by facing these challenges with maturity and commitment, we can strengthen our bonds and build solid foundations for the future. And the Sun makes a Sesquiquadrate to Jupiter, and this allows for growth and abundance. It also can add to feelings of tension and frustration as we navigate our ideals and being practical. But again, if we overcome the obstacles, we can find innovative solutions to our problems, and it's very important to remain flexible and open-minded today as we navigate, you know, the turbulence of these astrological transits. On the 29th of October, the Sun makes a quincunx to the Moon's North Node, Mars makes the Sesquiquadrate to Saturn, Mercury enters Scorpio, the Moon's North Node goes retrograde, and the Sun makes a quincunx to the Moon's North Node as well. So the Sun's quincunx to the Moon's North Node is exact at 10:28 a.m. The Sun's in Libra, the Moon's North Node is in Pisces. Mars' Sesquiquadrate to Saturn is exact at 12 p.m. today, and Mars is in Cancer and Saturn is in Aquarius. So when Mercury enters Scorpio, it allows us to dig deeper into mysteries and secrets. It increases our perception, intuition, making it a good energy for research and uncovering hidden truths. Communication can become more intense and probing, leading to meaningful conversations, but it can also lead to potential conflicts due to the tendency to be overly suspicious or critical. Positively, Mercury in Scorpio helps you see beneath the surface and solve complex problems with ease, encourages self-reflection and empowers us to express our ideas with depth and passion. And when the Moon's North Node goes retrograde, again it supports us in letting go of past patterns that are holding us back, wants us to go deep within ourselves as well and express our emotions, and because like the Mercury's in Scorpio, and this energy can also stir up internal conflicts and doubts about our direction in life. Emotions can run even higher with this retrograde, and we can just feel sort of lost and confused, but it's just temporary. If we're willing to reassess our goals and relationships, we can make progress. The Sun's quincunx to the Moon's North Node and wants us to find a balance between our desires and spiritual growth. It supports us in aligning with our higher purpose, and this can lead to a deeper sense of happiness and harmony. It invites us to explore ways of connecting with our intuition and emotions, and it helps us to have more personal growth and self-awareness. Mars' Sesquiquadrate to Saturn allows us to sort of like bring more structure and discipline into our life. It does bring a clash between our need for emotional security and structured discipline, but positively this pushes us outside of our comfort zone and supports us once again in confronting our limitations head on. It wants us to take action to overcome obstacles that stands in our way, and it just strengthens our determination and inner resilience, and it can help us build a solid foundation, better habits into our life, better relationships, better thought patterns if we're willing to grow and develop. And it wants us to have courage and perseverance as we tackle our limitations right now. On the 30th of October, Venus makes a semi-square to Pluto, the Moon makes an opposition to Uranus, and the Moon also enters void of course. So Venus' semi-square to Pluto happens when Venus is in Scorpio and Pluto's in Capricorn, and Mercury's opposition to Uranus happens when Mercury is in Scorpio and Uranus is in Taurus. So these aspects, Venus' semi-square to Pluto, helps us to be more determined, and it supports us in having deep emotional insights, helping us understand our emotions are at a deeper level. It allows us to grow, especially in matters of love, finances and personal values, but negatively we can, go through more power struggles as it adds to the intensify emotions and the struggles that can come up in ourselves and relationships this week. We can also be very jealous, manipulative and obsessive right now, and the best use of this energy is to use it to reflect on your deepest desires and transform any unhealthy patterns, and be more honest about your communication and your relationships, and try and avoid misunderstandings. When Mercury opposes Uranus, it can bring unexpected insights, and it can help us with our intellectual curiosity, as it allows us to seek mental stimulation, and it kind of like can generate new ideas and insights to our problems in our minds. It can lead to breakthroughs and innovations in our thinking and communication style, but negatively it adds to the disruptions in communication and misunderstandings that can come up this week, and the impulsiveness. especially when it comes to decision making. So the best use of this energy is to use it to think outside of the box, stay open to unexpected changes, and be willing to adapt quickly, and focus on finding innovative solutions to challenges that come up. This is a time to embrace change and explore new ways of approaching situations. Trust in your intuition and allow yourself to explore unconventional ideas. On the 31st of October, Mercury makes a biquintile to Chiron, the moon enters Libra. So yeah, Mercury's biquintile to Chiron happens when Mercury's in Scorpio and Chiron is in the constellation of Pisces. So when the moon's in Libra, it wants us to find balance, and it supports us to find, that harmony in relationships, which is much needed. So, it's going to last for the next 2.5-3 days. So it allows us to compromise, be more diplomatic, and repair, the arguments we started early on in the week. It allows us to see all situations from different sides and increases our decision making abilities, which is also good. And it can make us more empathetic, but negatively can also make us too people pleasery, indecisive, and just add to the inner conflict of this week, because we can have difficulty speaking our mind and asserting our needs. So it's essential to be mindful of seeking authentic connections rather than, the superficial harmony at this time. It supports us in confronting what we need to confront head on. Mercury's biquintile to Chiron allows us to be more analytical and creates emotional awareness if we're open to it, and brings healing. And it's a great energy to use for personal development, therapy, counselling, or any other form of healing conversations and self-reflection. It helps us with uncovering hidden truths within ourselves, and this can help us to gain clarity on our past as we reflect on our doubts and our traumas and try to get to the root causes of our traumas. But again, it adds to the miscommunications and misunderstandings of this week. The best use of this energy is to be vulnerable and to, allow yourself to have emotional breakthroughs and spiritual and psychological transformations, and trust in the power of words and thought and self-reflection to help you with your healing and growth. And on the 1st of November, Mercury makes a trine to Neptune, the Sun enters Via Combusta, Mercury makes a contra-parallel to Mars, the Moon enters Via Combusta as well. So a lot of fiery energy, a lot of Scorpio energy, because that's what the fiery way means. Via Combusta means that the Sun or the Moon is between the fiery way. Via Combusta in astrology is known as the fiery way. It runs from the 15th degrees of Libra to the 15th degrees of Scorpio. So when the moon is in those degrees, it's said to be in Via Combusta. So in astrology, positions such as Via Combusta is used in making predictions, especially in Hooray astrology. When the moon is in the fiery way, some astrologers think it's best to delay things, because when the moon enters Via Combusta, it can be a time of intense energies and heightened emotions. Still, I see when the moon in Via Combusta personally as a perfect energy to start or continue working through your deep emotions, self-destructive thoughts or behaviours, and psychological or spiritual and relationship problems. If you want it to be, this can be a powerful time of transformation when old beliefs and patterns can be challenged and new ideas and perspectives can arise, but it can also feel overwhelming and chaotic. The intensity of the emotions that come up can make you feel like you're drowning, so it is essential to stay grounded and practice self-care during this time if you feel this way. And know that although it's scary to face emotions, after all, you can't feel the fullness of life if you have thoughts and relationships holding you back. When the moon's in Via Combusta, it's an excellent time to explore any matter that requires you to dive deep and that you normally numb yourself or run from, yet it won't be all a bed of roses. You may go through some emotional turmoil. Nevertheless, it is an immense opportunity, so it's essential to be open and receptive to the possibilities that may arise, and remember, you can get out of the darkness if you keep on working on your personal development. There's also a new moon today, and if you want to know more about that, check out the separate audio. And the moon void, of course, also starts. So Mercury's trine to Neptune happens when Neptune's in Pisces, Mercury's in Scorpio, and is exact at 12:33 today. Mercury's contra-parallel to Mars I talked about earlier this week, and is exact at 11:18 today. So when the sun is in Via Combusta, it signifies a period of intensity and transformation in our life. It can bring about deep emotional experiences and challenges that push us to grow and evolve. It's an opportunity for empowerment, but negatively it can add to the conflict and power struggles and emotional turmoil of this week. So we have to do our best to stay grounded and try not to be overwhelmed by the intensity of emotions. It's the same with the moon Via Combusta. Again, it allows us to connect with ourselves and explore our subconscious thoughts and feelings, but negatively it adds to the mood swings, irrationality and increased vulnerability. So our egos can be out there. We can just be kind of moody because of all the inner turmoil. So it's important to take time out, practice some self-care and emotional regulation to avoid being overwhelmed by the fluctuations in emotions and the uncertainties that can come up. Also, with Mercury's trine to Neptune, it adds to us being intuitive and creative this week. It allows us to have clearer communication in our relationships, and it encourages us to trust our instincts and tap into our imaginative side and find innovative kind of solutions to our challenges that come up. So yeah, it's a good energy to get in touch with ourselves, but because it's trining Neptune Mercury right now, I'm going to say it can also make us blur boundaries due to Neptune can lead to us escaping, not seeing things clearly and falling into illusion. We may hear things and see things that we didn't, so we have to do our best to stay grounded, recheck information as well. And the best use of this energy is to just relax and do your best to be empathetic with your communication as well. On the 2nd of November, Jupiter makes a sextile to Chiron, Mercury makes a trine to Mars, Mercury makes a sextile to Pluto, and the moon enters Jupiter as well. So Jupiter's sextile to Chiron is exact at 8:07 a.m. and Jupiter's in Taurus and Chiron's in Pisces. Mercury's trine to Mars is exact at 8:21 p.m. and Mercury's in Scorpio and Mars is in Cancer, and Mercury's sextile to Pluto is exact at 3:02 p.m. and Pluto's in Capricorn. So when the moon enters Scorpio and it's also still in the fiery way, positively it allows us to connect deeper and increases our passion and intensity in our actions, but negatively we can be more sensitive and suspicious and struggle with trust issues and become overly fixated on certain thoughts and desires. It's best to use self-care and self-awareness right now to avoid letting negative emotions control your actions and words and get in the way of your good and being in love with yourself or your life or relationships right now. Jupiter's sextile to Chiron supports us with this growth and healing, and it can help us find self-acceptance, love, forgiveness and inner peace, as it allows us to be more compassionate, understanding and work towards spiritual and intellectual growth as well, as we tackle those emotional, psychological and spiritual wounds. negatively, we can be reluctant to be vulnerable and confront our past, and this can just be a waste of this energy. You know, the best use of this energy is to use it to do inner work, shadow work, self-reflection and emotional healing. And by staying open to the lessons and insights today's transits offer, we can, you know, emerge stronger and more aligned with our true self and repair our relationships and just feel more at ease, you know. So yeah, that's the end of the weekly scopes. I'm Amani, your holistic karmic astrology, and yeah, so yeah, kind of messed up my outro there, but I'm just going to do it anyway. So yeah, that's the end of the weekly scopes from the 27th of October to the 2nd of November.